Hey everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV and your uncensored match build-up ahead of Liverpool travelling down to Craven Cottage to take on Fulham this Sunday. I'm Dan Clubb, I'm joined by Chris and Lewis for this one. Gentlemen, how are we?
Hello, very good.
Yeah, very good. Sun's out, happy?
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Races nice weekend, change. The city is booming, there's people everywhere.
Ready to win nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Someone will win something somewhere.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I'm winning
spend to get in.
Yeah. Grand National weekend in Liverpool. It's a great weekend, to be honest with you. It is. It's a wonderful, wonderful occasion. Hopefully, Sunday would be a similarly wonderful occasion for the Reds. As ever, we'll start off the show speaking a bit about the opposition. Have a chat about Fulham. Chris, I'll come to you first on it, mate. Like, obviously, the Anfield game, 2-2 draw. We lost Andy Robertson in that. We come back from going a goal down. But generally speaking, we've seen a lot of Fulham this past couple of seasons. Obviously, the Carabao Cup, doubleheader last year. They've been quite closely fought affairs, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. Me and Lou were just talking before coming on, and Fulham's record against Liverpool is not particularly good in terms of it only being one win in the last 15, I think, and that came during the 6 defeats in a row at Anfield in the season behind closed doors.
We don't talk about that.
But no, we don't have to. But as you say, they are more often than not very hard-fought encounters. I remember the 4-3 last season, the Carabao Cup semi-final over 2 legs. That was a really hard-fought affair. And to be honest, in terms of games at Anfield this season, I know you could say Forest because Forest won the game, but if you're talking about really going at Liverpool, you could argue Fulham have been the best team that have come to Anfield in some ways this season. They were just brilliant on the day, certainly in the Premier League. I know Paris Saint-Germain might want to say about that, but on the day, they went at Liverpool from the start. Of course, there was a controversy over whether they should have had a red card early on or not. That was something Arne Slot was very keen to emphasise in his press conference yesterday. But they've got a lot of quality. I think 9th is a very interesting position for them because 9th kind of indicates the inconsistencies that we have seen from Fulham, and I think that probably is the word to describe them. But absolutely, they are a team with a lot of quality, and I think they have had a good season and are showing a lot of signs of progress.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think they have had a good season, and you mentioned the word inconsistency there, and that's been seen in a microcosm in the past 6 results, actually, because they've drawn 2, won 2, lost 2. So that's
perfectly balanced.
Absolutely, yeah. They're consistently inconsistent in a way, in that sense, you know what I mean? But Chris is right, Lewis, because I think whatever happens between now and the end of the campaign, you look back and say Fulham had a decent season and they played some good, attractive football on the way. Marco Silva's getting a tune at a lot of their team, a lot of their players. However, I feel like with the cup defeat last weekend, followed up by obviously defeat to Arsenal in midweek, like I'm reticent to say there's nothing to play for because there's Conference League, who knows, maybe even a bit more if they get a really good end to the campaign. But like, I don't know, it feels like it's maybe just fading away a touch.
Yeah, they definitely have dipped, but are they not the teams that you have to sort of fear at points where there's a sort of, there's nothing to win, but it's nothing to lose. So they could just turn up at Craven Cottage and think, you know what, let's just go for it. And they've shown this season they're not afraid to have a go at anyone. They will try every match. I've not seen any moments where, they've dipped, but there's not been a game where I've looked at them and thought, oh, they look timid here, they're sitting back. They know how they want to play, and they've got a very talented squad. Like, you're looking at the players through that, and the way they do attack teams, I think, I'm going to see if I can remember this off the top of my head, I think the 5th for progressive passes, 6th for progressive distance covered. They like to get at teams, and the only teams above them are the teams in the big 6. So they are one of the teams that you do have to worry about, regardless of where they are in the table, based on the manager, the players, and the way that they do attack teams.
Let's talk about some of them threats then, Chris, as Lewis referenced there. Like, I think it's strange, isn't it? Because you look at the fullback in particular, he's one of the main ones, and we've seen that a little bit at Anfield as well. But also we know Liverpool are, short-handed a touch at right back at the moment. Like, and Anthony Robertson feels like an area whereby if you were Marco Silva, especially maybe Willian doubling up over there, perhaps a bit of a Wobie, like, it feels as though that is the one key area, really.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal, Anthony Robinson, this season, hasn't he, really? I think the amount of assists he's got is very good. There have been links to Liverpool, of course. I think the one thing slightly going against him, and this sounds strange because I think he's 2 years younger than me, but it's the age element, isn't it? And I think that's why there is a lot more talk about Kirkez for that position.
If he was the same age as Kirkez, that's a proper conversation.
Massive conversation.
I think he's on 10 assists or something, Robinson, this season, or 11.
I think 2 of them, rather hilariously, came from passing 5 yards to Iwobi, who sent in 2 crosses against West Ham, and they both just flew in because no one got a touch. But hey, they all count. That'll definitely be an element of it, because as well as Curtis Jones played on Wednesday, and he played very well, that is probably a takeaway that we all had, in that how much was he actually tested apart from like the last 5 minutes or so. So that is something I think Fulham will very much use. Even on the other side, Castagna, in terms of how much he flies forward, is very much a threat. And they use the wide areas really, really well. They've got a few issues there at the moment. I think Harry Wilson's out, Reece Nelson's out for the season. So that was one of the reasons why they replaced a 32-year-old Willian with a 36-year-old Willian. But again, the quality that they've got in those positions really does emphasise how good they are in terms of those roles, and why it's just such a key asset for them. Iwobi, as well, as you say, he's contributed for them in much more of a goal-scoring way than I feel like he did for Everton.
Oh, massively, definitely. Yeah. He's managed to get, transformed, because Raul Jimenez falls into his bracket as well. Like, obviously, he was brilliant for Wolves.
What a season he's had.
Post-head injury, he wasn't the same player, but I think Marco Silva's got him facing the right direction again. You mentioned Iwobi, I think the same applies. Emil Smith-Rowe's been a bit hit and miss for them, hasn't quite worked yet. Adama Traore seems to be able to get something out of Traore, which not a lot of other managers can do, Lewis. But mentioned a few of the names there. There's some good players in amongst them. Yeah,
definitely. And he's got a real talent, or Fulham themselves have a real talent of picking those players that you wouldn't expect to be top quality and making them into something great. And like you said, Adama Traore, he's not your perfect end product, but he can cause issues with his pace and his strength. Iwobi, you wouldn't expect him to be having the season he is. He's been one of their best players. Smith-Rowe is another one. Yeah, he's dipped. But Muniz as well. He's been fantastic recently. He scored the chip against Wolves, I think it was. Got the goal against Arsenal. Like, they're good players. And it's not like the Fulham of old where all their end product came through Mitrovic. Their goals are spread out, their assists are spread out, and they're the most dangerous teams when you've got multiple people to worry about. And I think they've made more crosses than anyone in the Premier League this season, so you know where the danger places are, where they're going to actually attack from, and that's our weak spots, and that's the only thing that's making me a little bit nervous about this match.
No, I think that's fair enough, and again, the overriding point on this is they're a very good outfit who know how they can hurt teams, who know how they want to play football as well. And as you say, wide areas are definitely something they look to utilise. Injury-wise for Fulham, Kenny Tete, Reece Nelson, Harry Wilson, like the only absentees. They've been quite long-term absentees, so no reunion with Harry Wilson, which I'm quite disappointed about. To be honest.
I saw... It always pops up on X, formerly known as Twitter.
The celebration.
Yeah. I remember watching it live and just what a great goal that was in the celebration of the match. But I thought it was very interesting in that I didn't see the game live because obviously it wasn't on TV on Tuesday. But he set up with 5 at the back, Marco Silva, which I think is a very, very much a rarity for Fulham this year. And they didn't play nearly as well as how they played at Anfield, certainly based off what I did see, but they still created chances. I think just before Muniz did score the consolation, he missed a massive opportunity. There was one where I think Lewis Skelly clears it away from Emil Smith-Rowe. So again, they created opportunities, created problems. I think I'm just intrigued as to why they went 5 at the back, really, because that's very un-Marco Silva, I think.
Maybe the counter-attack. That's the only thing I can really...
Possibly.
Well, what it does do, albeit that was away from, obviously, at the Emirates, they're at home, maybe they were a bit more adventurous being in front of their own fans, but what it does do, it is a good sort of yardstick, if you like, for this game, because if you think, Arsenal, very good side, like to dominate the ball, let's do something different. Liverpool coming to town might well be similar, and you're right, it was a starting 11, obviously Bernd Leno in goal, Issa Diop, Anderson and Cuenca were the 3 central, really, then Castagna and Robertson on either wing back rather. But then, I'm not quite sure how well equipped they are personnel wise. Now Sander Berge and Sasa Lukic in the middle are great at that. That's a perfect double pivot in the back of there. But then the 2 ahead of him, Smith-Rowe and Adama, I'm not convinced personally.
No, when you consider Pereira has thrived in the number 10 role, which of course that formation takes away.
Well, you don't have it,
Cuenca's hardly seen the light of day this season. I think his Premier League debut, his Premier League debut or his first start was in the 2-2.
Because Calvin Bassey wasn't available that day, I think.
Yes, because he was suspended. But That's why I'm just really strange about it. But then there was one thing I saw, because Robinson, I think the chance that they had in the second half that nearly fell to Smith Rowe, Robertson was like playing as like a second forward.
Yeah.
So it was strange how central he got. But again, I think it just shows the adaptability of this Fulham team. And looking at the FA Cup quarter-final that they had last week, because Palace won at Fulham within the last month, I did kind of just favour Palace as well, especially considering Palace's away form. I didn't expect 3-0. In the nature of it as well.
And it was quite even, the first half of that game was quite even. As well, all of a sudden, Palace scored and then they ran away. It was odd because Fulham were the better team, I would argue, for a long period of that game. Just on the Fulham thing, you mentioned sort of the adaptability to formations there, but you look at the strength of the bench, because obviously you named his starting 11, we've just been through it, and then he brings on Rodrigo Muniz, as you mentioned, Iwobi, Pereira, Willian, Sessegnon. Now, I know Sessegnon's had major injury problems, but unused is Bassi, Harrison Reed, Tom Kearney, like all Lewis, all again, good options for a team like Fulham.
Yeah, they've got depth, and again, that's something that a lot of teams don't have. And there's no longer an over-reliance on individuals. They've just got a whole system that works.
Yeah,
and maybe they've got too many, as you alluded to. Then, like maybe there is too many people that are trying to fit square pegs into round holes, sort of thing. But the adaptability, they can go into any sort of shape they want based on the talents and individuals they've got, and that is a concern and a worry. And like I said, there are a few players. Smith Rowe hasn't been great. Tom Kearney's not fantastic. Adama Traore's only got one real talent, but they're still a threat. And it's just out wide where I'm just looking at it and thinking, we saw it in the 2-2. Trent gets beaten out wide. That results in a goal. Robertson causes a problem, makes a mistake. He gets sent off for it. That's where we just need to be cautious. And maybe we do need to be a bit more defensive-minded at points, more so than thinking, well, Van Dijk and Konate are there. They'll sort it out easy.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's difficult to second guess what they might do. Just a quick one on this chat rather. I have not been trying to get hold of you in the Discord. No, that is not me. So if somebody's pretending to be moonlighting as me, it's tell them it's not. RSC says, I'm not sure Fulham will play defensive low block like Everton did at their home ground, but our side hate playing against teams who play this way. Chris, we'll round off the Fulham chat on sort of what we're expecting from them. I tend to agree. I tend to think that, again, whilst it is difficult to completely nail close to the mat and say that's how Fulham are going to play because they've got options like we've discussed, I do think they will be at it and go for it a bit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think the one game that I've seen them not really be able to assert their authority in some way this season was probably the 1-1 against Arsenal, because they struck really early on, really nice finish from Jimenez, but then Arsenal really did push them back after that. I think they had one chance on the breakaway, maybe second half. But I'm very much expecting Fulham to be aggressive, attack. Marco Silva, I think, is an underrated manager in some regards, really, and there's a lot of talk about whether he'll be at Fulham next season as well. I know there was the Saudi interest, which he turned down. Look, fair play to him.
Because not many have done that. Like
managers, when you get the wages thrown at you, wouldn't probably have turned that down. So, no, I think absolutely he will adapt his style. I'm not expecting 5 at the back, to be honest. I'm expecting to go back to 4 at the back. I'm expecting Bassi to come back in as I feel like he's been one of their key performers this season. As you say, I was surprised that he was on the bench, even though maybe 5 at the back didn't suit him. But yeah, I'm very much expecting them to be aggressive, go at Liverpool, because I'm sure we'll touch on it as well. Even though Van Dijk did refute this somewhat on Wednesday night, I think there have been little signs that show Liverpool can be got at, and I think Fulham will, at least at home, try and do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will be front-footed because why not, ultimately? And again, they've had some joy against us. They've given us a bloody nose or two in terms of actual results, but certainly in terms of scares in recent times. And on the Marco Silva thing, I think it's Everton time. Once you've been touched by Everton, it tends to,
I feel like for Everton, I honestly feel like he's the one that got away in terms of recent years. I know you could say Ancelotti and stuff, but I just think in terms of what Marco Silva, because he was still a young manager at that point.
He was. Hull, wasn't it?
I know it didn't go well, but how many managers has it gone?
I think it started off quite well and then just dipped. But like you said, there's so many. If Carlo Ancelotti got sick of it, then you know that there's something in there that's not.
But not be funny like Real Madrid.
No, I'm not disputing that, but it's...
come on. But with the Silva thing, I think his trajectory always looked like that, and then the Everton thing really... But at the same time, from an Everton perspective, just quickly... They had to get rid, I think. I think the time had come.
I was actually surprised because his last game was the 5-2 derby.
Yeah.
I was really surprised he wasn't sacked 2 weeks early because they lost 2-0 at home to Norwich.
Yeah.
And in the Leicester game, which I think they lost in the last minute stoppage time, and then it was the derby, which was a bit of a mauling. But I do rate Marco Silva because I think he's rebuilt his reputation and his career really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll start to wrap up. Well, we'll wrap up the first half of the show with that. We'll come back and speak about Liverpool and stuff. But before we do, as ever, there's a trivia question at this stage. Now, it's a double-headed trivia question today, by which I mean it's got two links to today. Liverpool play Fulham this weekend, and it's also Harvey Elliott's birthday. So, how many goals and assists does he have for Liverpool in 140 appearances so far? I want the combined number, but if you can separate the two, even better. Let us know in the chat. Have your guesses. So, how many goals and assists combined does Harvey Elliott have for Liverpool in 140 appearances? See you in a minute.
Dublin, Belfast, Cork, the Redmen TV are coming to your town. The mighty Reds, Arne Slot's Liverpool, are flying high in the Premier League, and we are coming up on our 15th anniversary. What better way to celebrate two amazing things than to head on a tour of Ireland? Yes, me, Chris and Steve will be bringing our usual brand of hijinks, cartwheels, foul language, slagging off other football clubs that we don't like very much, and generally loving Liverpool Football Club. This time we've got Mark Kenny with us, bringing the brilliant Liverpool tunes as well. Come and join us. Wednesday the 23rd, we're in Dublin in the Ambassadors Theatre, our biggest ever live show venue. Thursday, we are back at the Limelight in Belfast, arguably our greatest ever live show last year. Can we recreate it again? Yes, we can. Get down there to see us if you're in Belfast. And for the very, very first time in Redmen history, Cork on the Friday. It's going to be a banger. The high bar will have been set by Dublin and Belfast. Can Cork surpass it? The only way to find out and to help it be a thing is to come down and see us. Tickets are available right now for the Dublin and Belfast gigs. Get your tickets at ticketmaster.ie, and Cork, you can get your tickets at eventbrite.ie. Come and join us. It's going to be the best time in the world with us and you, partying like only Liverpool fans can. Join us.
The Redmen. We are the Redmen.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us through that marathon of an advert that was. To be honest with you, it's probably for the best though, because I've set brains going here big time. Like I can feel the cogs whirring next to me, and in the chat as well, people have been trying to get involved, trying to guess. John O'Reilly says no googling. Callum O'Neill says 20-25-ish. Nick D says 14 goals. Another Nick says about 30 plus. Luke, this is your second answer, Luke. I'm sure you said something different a minute ago. You said 4 goals and 9 assists. So it is Harvey Elliott's birthday. Happy birthday, Harvey. He did also come from Fulham, so there's 2 links as to why I'm asking the question. But how many goals and how many assists does Harvey Elliott have combined in 140 Liverpool appearances? Chris,
I'm gonna go 30, but I think 12. I feel like 12 goals, 18 assists. I feel like he's got more assists.
You've recently done like a stat pack on Harvey, is that right? For like commentary
like
stuff?
my last commentary was the Southampton.
So there is
game.
a reason you would be in around the ballpark of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Lewis, your answer, sir?
Well, now I feel like I don't want to disagree.
Just what was your
20, I think 28.
Okay. Well, Jono, just a couple more answers before we move on. 18 goals and 24 assists, says Jono. I mean, not quite, that's high.
Yeah.
20 goals and assists, says Danny. It is 30.
Oh,
It's bang on 30.
You know what, I'll take.
It's bang on 30. It's 14 goals and 16 assists he has, Harvey. I also asked you, whilst you were thinking heavily, for your favourite Harvey Elliott goal. So let's do that as well. Lewis,
Cardiff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Back from injury.
Back from injury.
Yeah, I like that.
Was that his first goal at Anfield as well? I think
Quite possibly. All I remember being is the one
for the club.
Was it his first?
Yeah.
I just remember being the one. It was the Leeds injury he was back from.
Broke his ankle, was it?
Yeah, and how much you meant to him. Okay, I like that, Chris.
You know what? I'm going to go for, because a toss up between 2, Spurs and Ajax, but I think it was his first Champions League goal against Ajax, so I'll go with that. That was a really nice one. as well. But yeah, Spurs is very, very close.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ajax.
Interesting. Okay, so I would have gone for the Wolves FA Cup goal. Away
was
from
a
home,
beauty,
the winner,
yeah.
'cause I was there, and that was a replay, wasn't it? We drew with him at our place. There's that mad offside situation with Harvey Elliott stunner at Molineux, but he's got some good goals, and he's got some important goals, some winning goals as well from the bench. Crystal Palace last year does the same. Sound. Anyway, moving on. Liverpool then on to the Reds, bouncing out with a derby, much needed win, much needed momentum, restored our 12-point advantage at the top. Let's hope that continues and maybe even extends if Everton can do us a favour. Not holding my breath necessarily. Injury-wise, Chris, I'll come to you on it, mate. Conor Bradley wasn't involved at all in midweek, which would suggest his involvement is still at doubt for this one. Possibly a place on the bench, who knows? Joe Gomez, we've seen him in existence on the grass, but I don't think he's quite ready for this either. There's still question marks and concerns over Alisson Becker, of course, and no Trent, as we know. So how do you assess the overall injury situation?
I think the Alisson one was interesting because it happened about a week and a half ago, but clearly there are protocols to take, protocols to follow, and safety matters first, especially when it comes to head injuries. But I think the one thing as well that makes that situation even easier to deal with is the quality of Quavian Kelleher. And I think, albeit he actually didn't probably have that much to do on Wednesday, he is still as good a backup right now as you can wish for in the Premier League. So I'm not particularly worried about that situation. As Slot said in his press conference, when Alisson's ready to come back in, he will come back in. So the goalkeeping situation is what it is. Right back is a very intriguing one, because when I saw the leaks about Jones starting on Wednesday, I don't know if I'm the same as you guys, I was thinking, okay, that's McAllister on the bench. And then about 10 minutes later, you're getting stuff coming through like thinking, I think Jones is at right back. So
I was shocked because I knew he was at right back.
Okay.
I didn't know who was starting. It was Jones is starting at right back. You know what I mean? So I didn't have that shock.
Oh no, so no. The first thing I saw was Jones starting. Okay. Then I was thinking, okay, in midfield to like freshen up a bit. And then I saw the Jones right back stuff about 5-10 minutes later.
I see, right, okay.
And that's
so you did have a 5-10 minute spell before. Yeah. Cool.
So then when obviously the team came out, it obviously made perfect sense. But it probably does tell you just a little bit about where Quansah is maybe a little bit at the moment. And this is what Slot feels, and look, what he's done this season means that he is fully in control of the team. His decision's final. And we all accept that because I think we all trust him. And I think he's still maybe figuring out what role is best for Quansah going forward a little bit. The links to Newcastle really interested me the other day because he's just signed a new contract, signed a new long-term contract. Liverpool already need a centre-half going into this summer, another centre-half. So I think that's a very strange situation. I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I think it just tells you that he's maybe not confident overall in what he actually wants from Quansah right now. But Jones ultimately, I know I said earlier he wasn't particularly tested, but you can only play what's up against you. And he acquitted himself really, really well. And as Slot said yesterday, the flexibility of Curtis Jones makes him such a vital asset. And amongst all the talk about potential outgoings this summer, and I know Jones hasn't started a lot this season, although there was a point when it looked like it might have had the shirt while Szoboszlai was a bit in and out of the team. I think it just shows how important a player Curtis Jones will be going forward. No,
absolutely. Let's do the right back Curtis Jones stuff then. I'll come to you, Lewis, on it, because I did think he did well midweek, to be honest. But again, as Chris alludes to, not the most taxing of right back performances I'll have to put in. But do you think it is sort of being unsure on Joel Quansah's level right now in his form and stuff like, or do you think it was because he thought we're going to dominate possession here and Everton aren't going to really pose too much of a threat, so I can afford to get an unfamiliar midfielder at right back? Or do you think it was, like I say, Jones is just playing better right now?
I think it might be a combination of all three, just to give the boring answer. I don't know about you. I've never looked at Quansah when he plays at right back and thought, you suit this. He just feels so out of place, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's his physique, I don't know if it's him on the ball, doesn't seem too confident. When Jones was getting it, it felt like he was playing how I imagine Slot would want his fullbacks to play. He'd just slow it down. He'd just play the safe pass, make sure we kept possession. And like you said, I don't think playing against Mykolenko and Alcaraz out wide is as big of a test as Robinson and Iwobi's going to be. Nowhere near. So it's still up for debate. I do think that Jones does warrant being in this team more often than he is. And like Slot said himself, it's important and exciting that he's got players that are versatile. Like you go back to 2015 when James Milner was playing left back. Sometimes you do need players who can just fill in those roles sporadically. And Jones has proven that he is an all-round capable player. Slot said it himself. He said that he loves a challenge. You can tell he admires them quite highly. And if he thinks that having him at right back is a better option than having Quansah moving there, I have no reason to really question Slot's decision making. And I think Jones has played right back before. Was it the Europa League last season?
No, he did it against Leicester. He actually captained the side in the Carabao Cup game against Leicester from there. I think 2 seasons ago now, maybe.
Is it Bajcetic I'm thinking of who played?
Bajcetic did it in Austria against Lask. I think I might have saying. Somebody might be able to question me on that, but
so
if it's a Stefan Bajcetic question, I'm your man for Stefan Bajcetic. Come at me with anything Stefan Bajcetic related, I'm yours.
Is he the DM next season? I think he's in to come back in.
I think he's an option there.
I hope he does.
I think he's really up. And also, can I just say, this is massively off tangent, by the way, but there's so much that needs to be done this summer that adding to that list, we're going and finding an understudied DM is just out the question for me. So just bring Bajcetic back in, keep Wataru Endo around, and possibly a bit James McConnell thrown into the mix as well. Anyway, that's my take on that.
No issue with Jones at right back.
just for the record. I want to carry on with this conversation actually because I think it's a fascinating one. Particularly, we've already focused and spoke about Fulham's threat predominantly coming from the left-hand side. Liverpool have often, had conversations around sort of our weakness being the right back, often because Trent's just so attack-minded. Connor Bradley, I think, is a better option there in terms of defensive stuff. But now we've got polar opposites. We've got a midfielder playing out of position there, or we've got a centre-back whose primary job is to defend there. Like, Chris, what is the best option for this? Because for me, honestly, it's Quansah. And I know we lose a little bit going forwards when it's Jarrell, but I feel like with Iwobi, with Robinson, like we just have to be certain we're going to be able to deal with that.
I think I'm interested to think about in possession, out of possession as well when it comes to this.
Absolutely.
Because if you've got Quansah maybe tucking in as a third centre-back at times, that could help in this kind of situation. I think because we're anticipating more of an aggressive style from Fulham, perhaps the more defensive option does make a little bit more sense.
And just on that, would you have Robbo the outlet a bit more maybe on the other side? But you know what I mean? You could switch that up, couldn't you even?
I think it's the more natural fullback. I think it's interesting because I don't think Silva will be telling Castagna and Robinson to particularly hold back. I think he'll be telling them to go forward. And I think I've always said I prefer it when teams attack against Liverpool because I think that's when Liverpool really can thrive in those kind of situations. In transition, on counter-attacks, I think that is really where Liverpool can pick off Fulham if Fulham attack as I very much expect them to do so. So, I don't think it would harm playing Quansah there. I also think it would maybe be a little bit more natural in some circumstances, just as you say, with the crosses coming in, perhaps a bit more natural as a centre-half by trade dealing with those crosses.
Tucking in a bit and just...
Interesting.
Not that I particularly think who'd kind of filter out to the right wing-back slot, maybe the most natural, I say natural, with inverted commas, about where he would go in there. If Szoboszlai maybe tucked in a little bit on that side, on the right if need be at times.
Like that old Wijnaldum role.
Yeah. But no, I am edging more towards Quansah for this. Yeah.
And again, that just comes down to the game and who we're playing, doesn't it? Really? I think Jones's performance warrants another go at it. Really, you know what I mean? But I think again, with it being away from home, with it being a team that's main focus will be down the left, I think it's important that we get some more defensive solidity first and foremost there. Okay, let's move on. Centre half pick themselves. Let's be honest. Is there a conversation? I've just said Andy Robertson a minute ago, but is there a Kostas Tsimikas conversation here, Lewis?
I don't think at the moment. I think Robertson's really starting to. He's not going to get back to the way he used to be, but his form's improved, and I don't see a reason to drop him now. Don't fix what isn't broken. So I've got no issue keeping Robertson.
I honestly think we're entering a stage now where, fingers crossed, the league gets wrapped up as soon as possible. I think we are entering a stage where there are question marks about some players that might have made their last starts for Liverpool, if not appearances. And I don't think Tsimikas is one because, albeit recently, we haven't seen the fullback switched as much as he was doing earlier this season slot. But I think unless there's a game where Liverpool are playing, say, Brighton away, I'm thinking, because I can't envisage Tsimikas playing against Arsenal, for example. I just wonder how much more we'll see of Kostas Tsimikas Liverpool share. We've got a lot to be grateful for. A lot. Yeah. Carabao Cup final assist, the winning penalty in the FA Cup final. So we've got a lot. It'd be nice if you could top it off with a goal before the end of the season. But I just do wonder how much we're going to see of him, given that I do think he's the most likely left back to leave in the summer.
Definitely. Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think the time's probably come. Let's move into the midfield then, shall we? Again, a lot of this hinges on Curtis Jones' conversation we've just had, but let's do Quansah right back. Therefore, Jones is now available to be in our midfield three. Chris, how are we looking? Somebody earlier on in the comments mentioned the Wataru Endo start because of Gravenberch's fatigue still being a factor. I thought he looked better in midweek. I don't think he looked quite, the first third of the season, Ryan Gravenberch, but it was more like it. What are we looking like for you?
Well, he didn't play for Holland over the break as well, did he? So that might play a little bit of a factor.
Much needed.
In the same way that I've just said, I wonder how many minutes we'll see for some players. I wonder how many times we're not going to see Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai as a starting three for the rest of the season, purely because of the rest that they'll wanted rest, really, that there will be in between games. I think if it was me, I could have seen them maybe switched up on Wednesday going into this one. I think it's more of a conversation for next season, really, in terms of I do think we have to see more rotation earlier on in the season next year to benefit the long haul. And I probably am just going to say I do think it'd be the same three, even though I think Jones could maybe warrant a start. Maybe because on the back of my mind, I'm just wondering how much McAllister's feeling it after
he did say that
tackle. So I just wonder whether that could be one where he'd be given a rest just to literally give his body a bit of a rest. Really,
because be some knock, won't it? That I know we saw that the rest of the game.
That will have been. I mean, I've never had that in five-a-side, but that will have been one hell of a bruise come the morning.
Exactly.
So maybe I can see Jones in for McAllister, but I'm expecting the other two very much to be as they were.
So I think Jones does start this game, Lewis, and the McAllister knock may well be a factor as to why it's him, but I think Jones starts somewhere regardless, even for Szoboszlai. I think we will see that one change, but I'm not quite sure who the person that goes out is.
I mean, I'd have to agree, and I think if it would be McAllister, because as much as Slot's saying, he doesn't like too much change, he likes to keep the same thing. He did say himself, like, he could wake up this morning and feel a bit, we don't really know. And I think as well, if you do put Jones in, and you are concerned that there's going to be a lot of attack and threat on the left. He, like you said before, like one from Szoboszlai, Jones can come in and support Quansah if he needs to. So I think as well he's warranted the start after that Everton game because he performed so well. So Jones, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch,
and also he's done the job for the team, hasn't he? And you can reward that a little bit by saying you've done us a favour there midweek, mate. Merseyside derby right back shift. You were excellent. Go and play in your favourite position in midfield now. You know what I mean? I know that sounds simple, but it's also true. No. And also you're right in what you're saying, because if you do need somebody to double up and help out back there, he's just come from a 90 minutes at right back, so he's the perfect candidate for that as well. So interesting. Let's move into the front line then. I mean, Mo Salah, let's move on with our lives.
That's actually interesting, because I was talking, my uncle's got some very out there opinions at times, but he was genuinely saying just how not impressed he's been with Salah recently.
Oh no,
not that I'm not.
No, but he hasn't been himself. He's not been influencing matches in the same way, anything like the way he was previously. There's no two way, but he starts. Mainly because the alternatives are so outlandish at this point. Like somebody a moment ago mentioned Harvey Elliott for the midfield, and normally I'd be absolutely fine to have a conversation about that, but it feels like a non-starter. And likewise, whether it be Chiesa or Elliott for Salah's spot, Lewis, like it's just not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Not at this crucial point. Maybe depending on how results go and we've got Leicester in a few weeks, maybe then you could make a case that he might need to rotate to rest them. But at the moment, when we're in this position, still with the league to win, I don't see much.
And Salah's got records to get to.
Also, even against Leicester, if it's the goal, he'll be thinking to himself, can I score the goal that wins Liverpool the Premier League?
Absolutely. And also at this juncture, sorry to put a damper on everyone, like it's sunny out there, but what we've asked Salah for, he doesn't play for us next season right now. Hopefully that changes.
Use him before you lose.
By the way, but absolutely.
You're right.
Absolutely.
You just want Chiesa to get that medal.
He needs 2 more games.
2 more.
He'll get him.
Arna, if you're watching, please.
He'll get him. He'll get them because I think it's one before the end, and then we'll just see all kinds of heads playing. Sounds. Who's alongside him then? Let's do the opposite wing first, Chris, because I think there is a shootout going. I mean, I know Gakpo didn't start midweek, which surprised me, but I still feel like the conversation there.
Yeah, I think it maybe questions his fitness a little bit more than I thought. Really. Again, he's someone that got loads of minutes in the break, as we always expect him to with the Netherlands. Diaz, I thought, had a decent game. There were some parts in the first half when I was like, if you do the same thing over and over again, expect different results, it's a definition of insanity. And I think ultimately, look, he got the assist, nice little flick, but I just wondered a little bit, was he direct enough at times in the game? Gakpo, I think, when Gakpo is fully fit and firing, I think he comes back in.
Yeah.
So if he is fully fit, I do think he could well come back in. You see in the comment there about the same front three from Wednesday. It's intriguing in that if Jota probably is fit enough to go again, sound. I can see him being the number 9 for the rest of the season. I think Nunez, we're almost counting down the minutes again that he's got left in the Liverpool shirt. But yeah, if Gakpo is fully fit, I will go with Cody Gakpo. If there's any issue at all, again, I think Diaz. I think Diaz probably feels good about himself as well. Scored twice for Colombia over the break as well. So yeah, either way, I don't think it's a bad option with whoever goes on the left. And
that's kind of been the case all season long, hasn't it? But I feel like, obviously, started the season, it was Diaz's shirt, and then Cody Gakpo earns it really often, like takes it off Diaz, and then obviously has the injury, and then the PSG and the Newcastle displays just don't bear talking about. He just wasn't fit at all. But then obviously looked back to himself in the break, as you mentioned. So that's why I was a little bit shocked not to see him from the start of midweek, but still. Lewis, I'll come to you on the 9. Chris just said it there, and it's kind of my feeling as well, that I think it doesn't take much to convince me that you are the number 9 for the rest of the season, but I think midweek might have done that for Diogo.
Yeah, I agree completely. And like Slot said, he had a few months injury, he came back and he wasn't his best. He's openly said that. But when Nunez has been there, he's not done anything of substance bar Brentford. So Jota's come in, scored a phenomenal goal. I don't see much reason in dropping him. And I still do think he is trying to work his way back up to fitness. There are options if you want to rotate him. You've still got Diaz who can take over that position if you want to get Jota off the pitch and don't trust Nunez. But don't take him out at the moment. He's not in great form, but he's still scored. And that's what you need.
Yeah, when you look at his significance this season, Fulham at home, which was borderline the same goal that he scored on Wednesday. Fulham at home, Forest away, Everton at home. They are 3 really, really important goals, by the way. So maybe his contribution has gone a little bit under the radar just purely because of the injuries.
Yeah, and the numbers don't quite stack up like they usually do with Diogo. No. I think the problem is, I said this to somebody yesterday, I don't know if it was on a show or in real life, that is my life. It all just blurs into one, but like, a lot of the problems around Jota, a lot of the conversation we've had negatively on Diogo Jota, obviously injury related. But then obviously you can caveat that most of the time by saying, yes, but when he is available, my God, doesn't he score goals? Isn't he brilliant? So then when he stops being that second bit and you've still got the injury concerns, I'm not quite sure where you're at with him, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's been a tough season. I thought he looked much better in midweek. I thought he looked sharper. I thought he looked more at it. And he took the goal. That was Jota in a nutshell for me, like that. So I do think he is the 9 between now and the end. But again, beyond that longer term, I'm not sure. If
people were just saying, was a discussion over the break about kind of Nunez, Diaz, Jota, I think Jota is by far and away the most likely to stay out of all those 3.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's why as well, I think when you're talking about the number 9 for the rest of the season, I think Slot's thinking, again, if I'm going to use you next season, I'm going to get the best out of you this year and find out the best qualities to work with next year.
Carry on practicing it as well, ultimately. You know what I mean? Like, the more dress rehearsals you can have, absolutely the better. Just somebody in the comment here, Freedom Journey, is a regular contributor to the chat, so thank you very much, is why not Chiesa? And I feel like it's worth having a quick chat about, actually, Chris.
Get him his 2 games.
Yeah, that absolutely that. But again, we kind of dismissed him as the Salah replacement because Salah, left wing, he hasn't done anything left wing for us. I think maybe Plymouth at the end a little bit, but not really.
He had little bits against PSV as well.
But yeah, he did actually, come to think of it. Yeah, and he has done it in his career, absolutely. Obviously, we've seen him more centrally in the Carabao Cup final, the closing stages, scores his goal from there. But I don't know, it just, similar to the Harvey Elliott thing, really, mate. Like, I just don't think we're going to see it.
No, I'm a fan of Elliott also. I really do like what I've seen of Chiesa, especially the training video the other day, and I know it's training, it's not match scenario, but the quality of the finishes was absolutely outstanding. And I think there is a frustration that Slot's first real signing, because I'm not counting Mamardashvili obviously until next season, his first real signing hasn't really seen the light of day. He has tried to advocate that by saying the amount of injuries that he has had this year, or at least kind of getting up to speed. I thought we'd have seen a bit more, because his last Premier League minutes were the 25th of January against Ipswich, because his first Premier League appearance was half an hour against Bournemouth. I think we're all thinking, there's a player here that can be really useful. And then 5 minutes against Brentford, 4 minutes against Ipswich. I think that was just before the stoppage time anyway, not including stoppage time. And then we've not seen anything since, really. And the Carabao Cup final were his first minutes since Plymouth, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So,
Scored against Accrington. Just
good goal against Accrington.
Very good goal against Accrington. I really want to see Chiesa. I very much want to see him get his two appearances at the very least, just to get his Premier League winners medal. But yeah, I think just in this kind of scenario, until it's done and dusted, good luck telling Mohamed Salah he will not be starting a Premier League game.
Or Diogo Jota likewise after midweek as well. But yeah, it just hasn't materialised for whatever reason with Chiesa. And it'd be interesting to see what the summer looks like for him as well. Add him to the list of players of interest in summers ahead, I think is fair to say. Sam, I think we've just about reached a consensus on a starting 11. I think keeper is 50-50. If Alisson's ready, he's back in. If not, Kevin Keller, on we go. I think we went Quansah right back. Ibu, obviously, Virgil, Robbo. Midfield 3. Did we settle on McAllister out for Jones? Is that right?
That's what I'm saying.
So Gravenberch, Szoboszlai,
Jones. Just give his leg a bit more rest.
Leg
a bit more rest.
Absolutely, And then a front line of Mo, Diaz
would be my pick, I think.
And Jota?
I fully fit and fire in Gakpo, if not Diaz.
Okay. I wonder whether he might just give Gakpo another half an hour. And get
he'll give him some, but
closer.
I think with Castagna probably going to fly forward the way he does, there's going to be space for Diaz.
More like best. Gakpo more likely for West Ham.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. So a quick look around some Premier League fixtures this weekend. Then before we start thinking about score predictions and getting them in the chat as well as I do this. Goodison Park 12:30. Everton against Arsenal. Let's have a quick chat about that, Lewis. I'll come to you on it first, mate. I actually think, obviously midweek, both us and Arsenal winning, it's just another game ticked off. You can sort of move on, and the 12-point lead remains and all that sort of stuff. I think, especially if Arsenal drop points, but even if Arsenal win that, right, and we win, I think we're in sort of final nail in the coffin territory for this Premier League. And I love saying that, obviously, but I'm thinking more from an Arsenal point of view, because if you are looking on and hoping that Liverpool drop and do something mad, just keep winning games, and that hope evaporates quickly.
Well, we, not to put a negative spin on it, we know that better than anyone.
Exactly.
Look at City the past few years.
And
you've got to win what's in front of you. And Everton, Arsenal going away to Everton, they drew 0-0 there last season, was it? It was Sean Dyche, or the season before. Sean Dyche's.
I think they won 1-0 with Tarkowski.
They won and then got the draw.
So
they've. Everton's not an easy game for them, and the 9 games unbeaten, they put up a great fight against us. I wouldn't be banking on Arsenal getting 3 points, because Everton have shown, especially under David Moyes, they can come out and do something.
Chris smiled at me then. Go on.
A Gabriel-less Arsenal.
Arsenal.
I just think that's a massive factor, and I think if Arsenal fans are even contemplating resting a few ahead of Real, what if? And again, not to put negative spin on it, what if Liverpool drop points on Sunday? All of a sudden, they've dropped points home to Everton, away to Everton, and they've missed a chance to narrow the gap.
I think that's happened every time.
So
most of the times we've dropped points, they've dropped points.
So I don't think they can afford to. I think Saka's probably going to come back in and start, but I don't think Arsenal can go into that game with the intention of resting players.
This is what I'm it's the eggs in the basket thing, isn't it, ultimately? I think this weekend, you're right, Arsenal might have to go for it again, but then I wonder whether this weekend is the weekend where if we both just win, or even better, Arsenal drop points with the Real Madrid thing. I wonder whether that's that. You know what I mean?
If Arsenal play the long ball, if I can't get the teams mixed up, if Everton play the long balls that they did towards Beto from Wednesday, if they play them on Saturday, I think he'll cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's one thing. I know Beto obviously didn't score, but I don't think he had the worst game in terms of causing Van Dijk and Konate problems. I think if he does the same thing in terms of gives that outlet, I can see Everton very much causing Arsenal problems.
We didn't deal with him particularly well, to be fair, did we?
No.
There's a comment here saying, I don't want Arsenal to drop points so we can win our next 4 and win the title home. I must admit, there's a lot of me that's in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Like, again, listen, ultimately, I want us to win the league as quickly as possible and just celebrate forever. But we spoke about this before we went live, I think, like, the manner with which we win the league does feel like it matters to me. I've waited my whole life to watch
I want it to be in the game Liverpool play.
Yeah, I do. I want it to be a Spurs game.
I don't want it to be another Chelsea against City.
Because I've waited forever.
Yeah.
Literally. And I know we did it, but A, it was City-Chelsea. B, it was COVID.
Yeah.
And C, the whole thing was just different. You know what I mean? I honestly, I want to see us do it.
I want to see those pictures of everyone hugging and celebrating at the end. Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, John Buck says I can see Arsenal getting a sneaky 1-0 and Liverpool a 2-1 win. 2-0 to capitalise on Arsenal's draw, says Mihail.
I like that one.
Everton have nothing to play for. I think they are safe from relegation. Yeah, they are, but again, that can make teams dangerous. And be interesting to see whether they care or not.
I think, and I had this theory on the way in, they've got 4 home games left at Goodison. Mm-hmm. They've got Arsenal, City, Ipswich, Southampton. They'll want that last massive win at Goodison Park. So, with all due respect to Southampton, Ipswich,
it's one of them two.
You're looking at City or Arsenal, and I think they'll absolutely go all out.
Yeah, interesting. Let's wrap up the rest of the fixture. Crystal Palace play Brighton, which is and isn't a derby in the same sentence. Ipswich against Wolves, which I guess could be one final mini twist. Maybe the miniest of twists, possibly. West Ham Bournemouth, which is a game of football that will happen. Aston Villa against Nottingham Forest. Sunday is Brentford Chelsea, which is West London derby, I guess. Us against Fulham, obviously. Spurs Southampton, United City. I did not realise it was a Manchester derby.
Hot tip, would not surprise me if Southampton won that. Because if you are Tottenham Hotspur, you play the kids and you go all out for the Europa League.
I was gonna spin on the Spurs thing momentarily because obviously we lost last night to Chelsea 1-0. Lewis, I'll come to you on it, mate. Like, if that does happen and they do, I don't really care what he does team wise. If they lose to Southampton at home, like, he's got to be on the thinnest of thin ice.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed he's not gone already. In all honesty, I think it's one thing when you lose and you're showing the sort of naivety to keep playing the football you are, that's still seeing you lose to Ipswich and Leicester, teams that are getting beat by everyone else. But when you're jeering up your own fans, when you're cupping your ears and then going, oh, it's so I could hear the celebration, it's bollocks. So I'm amazed that he's still there now, in all honesty.
Well, it's the Europa League and the existence of that competition that keeps him in a job. Ultimately, that's the only reason. I do wonder, whatever the end of that looks like for them, that might not be enough, even if they win it.
I think he still goes, even if he wins.
I tend to agree. Speaking of thin ice, that Ruben Amorim against City this weekend, that could be that as well, because they're not good at football. Leicester Newcastle's Monday Night Football as well, everybody, which is a thing that's happening as well. So that's wonderful. Score predictions.
I'm going to go Fulham 1, Liverpool 2.
Okay.
3-2.
Can I trouble you for goal scorers, please?
I think Gakpo comes off and gets one. He tends to do quite well against Fulham.
He does.
Szoboszlai, Salah.
I normally think on fantasy purposes, but everyone's got Salah, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go. I'll go for Jota to continue his good form and score home and away against Fulham, and I love Szoboszlai goals. I just love goals from Liverpool number 8s. So yeah, Jota and Szoboszlai. Like that. Assisted both from Salah. Let's get contributions in there. Let's get that record wrapped up as well.
Yeah, true. So, actually, I'm gonna go 3-1, a repeat of last year. I'm gonna go Salah, Diaz, and one for me. Curtis Jones.
Yeah,
Salah, Diaz, and Curtis Jones. Yeah. Let's do that, shall we? Sound wonderful. We've got a 3-0 from Ivan, says Sobbo, Salah, and Virgil. Robert Randalls has gone 6-0.
Patrick for Nunez.
Yeah, let's not believe a word Robert said.
You see, you make a thing like that, you got to whack a quid on that.
Have you? No, yeah.
I don't know.
Put your winnings for the Grand National on it, which will be £0.
He's had 6-0. He only named 5 goals there.
So. That is true. That's true. That is true. Maybe because he doesn't believe himself.
He got halfway through and quit.
This is utter nonsense. Sounds wonderful. That's us then. Other shows wise this week, I've recorded the Oppo preview earlier on today. That'll be out on Redmen Plus later. Then there'll be a bit on YouTube following that as well. And of course, we will all be in situ These will, I will, for the watch along on Sunday. So do come and join myself, Steve, and Paul for that. We'll be with you like an hour and 20 before kick-off to do team news, build-up, and all that stuff as well. So do join us for that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday, enjoy your Saturday. I'll see you soon.